Hey, you guys. My name is Rebekah Ray, and I like to sing on the worship team at New Beginnings Church. I actually live in Virginia with my husband and my two kids. My husband's Coast Guard, and we're stationed in Yorktown right now, coming back as soon as we can. But until then, I'm kind of like on an as-needed basis, and I come as often as I can to help out because I love it. So I come from a family that didn't always know the Lord, but I've never known my family in that capacity. I only know what it's like to have a family that is pursuing Jesus. But in that comes that I only know what it's like for Jesus to come through for you. And I don't really know what it's like to rely on anybody else. Even as far back as a child, I can remember praying for a husband that was military, and that I literally told the Lord, God, I want to live on the beach. I love the beach. It's so much fun when we go on vacation. And now I married into the Coast Guard. So we're always on the beach, or at least the water. So even small prayers like that, He's fulfilled them for me. But if there was a time in my life that I could look back and drop a pin to where I know that the Lord changed the direction of my life, I was 10 years old and my parents were going through a divorce. I wanted to live with my dad, but was not old enough to legally sign paperwork saying that I wanted to live with him because the legal age was 12 at the time. Until we prayed. And that October, I learned that the law actually is under submission to the Lord, and the law does what Jesus tells it to. So the law changed, and I was able to, the law changed, and you could be 10 years old to determine which parent you wanted to live with. So I was able to decide that I wanted to live with my dad, sign the paperwork. And then actually the following year, so it was only 10 years old for 1 year. The following year, it changed. The law changed back to you had to be 12 years old. They decided that 10 years old was too young, but my case was not altered. So the Lord will do what the Lord needs to do to take care of you. And He's always come through for me. As a teenager, we lived through a time when we didn't have everything, and our water pump was broken. So we had this big, huge tank and a pump in the ground, but the pump was broken, so we had no water. And we didn't have any means to fix it. Jesus had to come through for us, or I wasn't brushing my teeth. So it was Him, or it was nothing. But my dad taught me about faith, and he taught me that by his actions, he walked out to the well, or not the well, but he walked out to the tank, laid his hands on it, and prayed over it, that the Lord would fill it up with water. And we came out the next morning, and the tank was full, all with a broken pump, but the tank was full. And that actually didn't happen just once. It happened several times. But it taught me that the Lord was concerned for me. The Lord was concerned that I wanted a drink of water. The Lord was concerned that I wanted to take a shower. He cared about me. And I also learned that even inanimate objects have to come under submission to the Lord. And it's taught me that now, as an adult, I had a broken laptop. And, my laptop was crashing. It was in the process of crashing until I remembered that water pump. And so I closed my laptop, laid my hands on it, and asked Jesus to fix it. Opened it back up, turned it back on, and everything was as it was supposed to be, because Jesus has always come through. I've gone through a time in my life when I was hurting and I turned away from the Lord. I made some poor decisions, quit going to church. I was removed from the worship team. But I knew that Ed Trout was coming that Wednesday, so I could not go to a service with Ed Trout. So I kind of went out of obligation. I sat in the back of the church, like literally in the back of the church with my back against the back wall. And I think that I might have even been sitting on the floor. But Ed prophesied to me. I couldn't tell you what the entire prophecy was, but at the end of it, he said, and I quote, "And you've done a really good job for the last 6 months to a year." That was the lowest point in my life. How could I have really been doing a good job? I talked to my dad and I asked him that. He knew that I was going through what I was going through. And he said, but the job of the prophet is not to tear you down. It's to build you up. And he encouraged me to continue pushing towards the mark of the high calling of Christ. And I learned through that that's how Jesus is. Okay, you messed up, but keep pushing towards the mark. Stop where you are and start over. It's not the end of the world. Keep pushing towards the mark. So I went back to my then boyfriend, my now husband, Brandon, and I was crying, and he was, "What's wrong?" And I told him, "I don't want to live my life like this anymore." And he was happy. He said, "Great." And since that time, we have not stopped pursuing the Lord together. Now we have 2 little boys, James and Nate, and we're trying our best to teach them the same childlike faith and that Jesus always comes through. But I also want to encourage you that if you will raise your kids up in the way that they should go when they're older, they won't depart from it. Because I can't imagine what my life would be like without Jesus or where I would be, but I was taught that. So I hope that my story touches you and encourages you, because Jesus wants to build you up. He doesn't want you to ever know what a day without him is like, because he loves you so much, and so do we. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you later.